Phil Spector with his white wig and his white jumpsuit and his 357 Magnum, you know.
That is the voice of Dion DiMucci, rock legend. From Dion and the Belmonts, The Wanderer, Runaround Sue. Dion has a new book out, The Rock and Roll Philosopher, Conversations on Life, Recovery, Faith, and Music. He co-wrote it with Adam Jablin, and it's a great read, a great story. It was conversations between him and Adam, and now they released it in an Audible. You could get it on Amazon, and a book that will be out in January, but you could pre-order it now. I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Dion myself. I'm sharing it with you guys. I was nervous, but it was great, and it's over 1 hour. So post your comments down below. Now let's welcome Dion to the show. There he is, the man himself.
Stefan.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you something, Dion? Can I be nervous? Am I allowed here?
I'm nervous too.
Dion, I wrote you don't understand. I wrote an intro. I'm practicing it like I'm going for an audition here, and I've interviewed many, but you've been in my life like a family. I was trying to do an intro like in Canarsie, Brooklyn, where I grew up. I would go to a place called Ananapoli. The family would be loud, obnoxious, a Jewish family, and no meal would be complete. My dad had the squangili. I had the big ziti in a tin can. I don't even know if people remember in the tin plate that they used to serve with the mozzarella baked. But Dion and the Belmonts would come on. I wonder why. And if the meal didn't have the music behind that.
Old, come on. How old are you?
I'm 57.
You're a kid. You're like a grandchild to me.
Oh man, I've been trying to get you forever on here. Look, I have my mom's records. This was like when I was a kid. Look at the condition of this.
Wow.
What a great record. I have a 45.
That's got to be 1960.
This is actually in great condition for what it is. I didn't know what was in over here on the side. There was like a missing thing. My mom, I don't know what was there, but.
Yeah, it was like a pull-out 3 pictures, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, man, Dion. Well, man, I got to tell you, thanks for being here, and we'll have a little conversation, and the minute you're bored with me, just tune out. I'm from Brooklyn. I could take it.
How do you pronounce your name?
Stefan, you said it right.
Okay.
You totally said it right, man. I appreciate it. I had Joe Bonamassa on a couple months ago, and we were talking. I go, Joe, you got Dion, you worked with him, and we both fanboyed out. He goes, I know, I can't believe it. I go, Joe, what's it like to work with a cat like that? And all he did was give you props and all this great stuff. And that record you did with him actually created a record label with them too.
It did, and he started a whole thing in my life. I'll tell you about it later.
We'll talk about it now. Let me give you a proper intro. Everybody, you're an artist on record. Your ultimate intimate conversation with your favorite artist. Hey, this is a bucket list for me for sure. I have in the hot seat Dion DiMucci. He's here, the man himself. And right now you could check out on Amazon. You could pre-order his new release, his book, his memoirs coming out. Let me click a picture right here. And you could hear the audio, the Audible. You could get that now. Check this out right here. The Rock and Roll Philosopher. Come on. Conversations, life, recovery, and music. It's all there. Links will be here, down below. Get it for Christmas. How was that, Dion? Was that good, huh?
Perfect.
It's over. The show is over, man.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Nah, you're very well. An honor. Man, so you got that. I was listening to some of the audio, and I got to tell you something. There's a clip that I previewed, and you were going about Phil Spector. I was like, whoa, the conversation. I'm going to name drop for a second. I used to be in a band with Dee Dee Ramone, and when I met him, he told me about a story about Phil Spector's going to be in trouble one day. What a nutcase. But if you knew Dee Dee, you would never believe. It was like the boy who cried wolf, that guy. But then later on, what happened? We all know the story, but working with Phil Spector, I mean, the legend, did great stuff.
Yeah, I did an album with him, and there's a story in the Audible book that I tell. It's about maybe 20 minutes long. I mean, because Springsteen and Little Steven were in the studio, and Cher and Greg Allman and Phil Spector with his white wig and his white jumpsuit and his 357 Magnum, pointing it at Springsteen. I'll show you how to make a record. Like Springsteen needs a little help on making a record.
Oh my God. Crazy, huh? With the gun, just wacky, huh?
A lot of these stories, the reason why I called it the rock and roll philosopher is a philosopher is a lover of wisdom. And who doesn't love wisdom? We all love wisdom, and a lot of these stories, like your philosophy is perfectly designed to produce the result you're getting in life. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, your belief system, it's perfectly designed to get produce what you're getting. So I just show how, because before I got in the studio with Phil Spector, John Lennon and Harry Nilsson were making this album Pussycats, and they were getting stone drunk, and there's really like here stories and stories on the internet about these sessions, and but I was like clean and sober for about 7 years when I got in the studio with Spector. I've been clean and sober like 56 years. I came into a 12-step spiritual based recovery program in 1968. And I never looked back, Stefan. I just never looked back. So when I was there in the studio, I was, it was very frustrating. And I tell the story in the book, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a life lesson in every story, because where you see your belief system, you actually see it physically. You see it in relationships with your wife, with your kids, in your job, with your money, with your friends. You actually see it. So I explain how I got through some of these. Like in every story, there's like a life lesson, like how I came through it, and that's why it's called the Rock and Roll Philosopher, and it's conversations on recovery, life, music, and faith. So, but in that particular story, I really learned how to call somebody out personally, singularly, like get them alone, not challenge them in the control room with Springsteen and Cher, and because you're going to lose when there's 30 people in the control room and you confront somebody. It's going to become a shit show. So I got him outside in a private room, and I looked him in the eye. I said, Phil, it's Dion here. I love you. We're trying to make a record. I got to walk out of here with my balls. You know what I mean? I'm a man. Come on. I said, let's go out there and make a record. And I sat with him alone. And after that, when you look somebody in the eye and you're alone with them and you talk to them, you can really, like, you have a vision, you could communicate it, you could have the courage to, stay the course and make the decisions, and it works. So there's all things like that in there, that because the art of philosophy is making distinctions. And if you make bad distinctions, it's bad philosophy. So, but anyway, I get along with people well, and I love making music, man. And growing as a person helped me out because, Stefan, a lot of guys in rock and roll, we start out angry and lonely and frustrated and whatever. But if you don't deal with that stuff, it'll kill you.
It'll kill you. You're right. Ego, everything. Yeah, absolutely. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just agreeing. I totally agree with you. We get into rock and roll because it's cool. It's also a release, and you get it out, because else you can get in trouble on the street. East Coast, the streets. I mean, the Bronx, all that world, and your world there's a lot of stories to talk about. I mean, Dion, God, all these stories, and there's so much to talk to you in this little time. And I don't want to overstep my boundaries with your time, so you just let me know when you got to go, because I could go. There's so much minutia I got up here, and I'm all over the place.
Hey, I'm with I'm with you. You got me. Let's
Have a
enjoy it.
conversation.
I enjoy you, and
I
I'm,
I appreciate that.
I'm. It's an honor to be here, Stefan.
Amen. Amen. Here too. And the class is open. We got the man himself, Dion's. And like I said, everybody, links will be above here and click down below. And just to let you know, I'm pre-recording and I'll do edits over this, what we talk about in overlays. So I'm not going live. I want it to look good. It's funny. I have a crazy story just to talk with you, to get to know each other, because you don't know me. I would do a jam band when I moved to California, where I live now, but I'm in Central Coast, but I used to live in like Burbank area. So you probably know Don Randy, who plays keyboards. He was part of the Wrecking Crew, and I was going through a divorce. I was playing with Dee Dee Ramone at the time. So Tuesdays was a jam. We'd go and jam like, Stones, blues covers, just everything with the house band. And the drummer, it was Wayne Kramer, MC5 guitarist. It was my buddy Gilby, who was in Guns N' Roses, and it was Clem Burke from Blondie on drums. And at the time, the owner, Don Randy, goes, "You'll love my friend. He's from Brooklyn. He's just like you." And I was going through a divorce, and the guy is chatting me. And he's like, "Never get married, kid. Never do this." And he's yelling. And we're trying to learn the spinners. I'll be around. I'll never forget exactly. I go to Clem, the drummer of Blondie. I go, "Clem, I like Don's friend, but he won't leave me alone. He likes me, and now I'm trying to learn." He's talking to me. He goes, "You know who that is?" I go, "Who is it?" "It's Hal Blaine." I go, "What?" "Oh, well, he could stay next to me." And you got to work with Hal. Amazing drummer, man, huh? I mean, come on. Yeah. On that Phil Spector record. But those are the funny stories of rock and roll, how you meet people during your way on this journey.
There were 60 musicians in the studio when I did that album with Spector. He was wall-to-wall sound for sure.
Fantastic. It's a great album too. That album is fantastic, man. What you did with that record, And let's go back, man. Let's go back a little bit. The Belmonts, man. I mean, what a sound. The street, there's just rock and roll from the streets, the melodies, the different vocals going on there. I just got to go back for my viewers to understand how great that is and where you came from and how you put it together. Can you talk about that a little bit?
When I was a kid, I was living in the Bronx, close to a block away from Bronx Zoo. That was my stomping grounds, Botanical Garden, the Concourse, which is like the Champs-Élysées of the Bronx. And, I was a kid, like 10, 11 years old, and I heard Hank Williams. There was a show coming out of Newark, New Jersey called the Don Larkin Show. And he had come back from the Army and fell in love with country music. And, he played Lefty Frizzell and Hank Williams. And I heard this stuff as a kid. And it, Stefan, it just transported me into a place of enchantment. Here I am in this little apartment with my parents arguing 24 hours a day. Yeah. It seemed to me. And I hear this music and it just took me to a place of transcendence. It's like a place of pleasure, delight, and I bought a secondhand guitar. My uncle got an L1 Gibson for $8.
Whoa.
Today, you could, and I started learning some chords. My uncle taught me a couple of chords, and off I went. And then I heard Jimmy Reid, and that was it. And I must have knew about 40 Hank Williams songs. So what happened was there was this songwriter in my neighborhood, and he, I started kind of making a little name for myself because I'd play at the church dances with the butcher who played bass and the grocery guy who played drums, and this writer came up to me. I was sitting on a stoop singing some songs from my friends, and I found a secret. I could sing to the guys in the neighborhood. Without threat, I could sing, "No one knows what I go through, and the tears I cry for you," and nobody would be threatened. you know, I could sing stuff like that was tearing me apart. And no one would be, if you ever told somebody that, you'd get punched in the you know, you couldn't say, no one knows what I go through and the tears I cry, you know. So I found the secret that you could sing the songs and threaten no one. And your deepest feelings, you could try to communicate them, you know. So this songwriter comes up to me, he says, I know this company that's starting up in Manhattan called Louie Records. And he takes me down there, and I think I was listening to Chuck Berry. But I loved Carl Perkins. So I did a Carl Perkins tune, like Boppin' the Blues. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I still have the acetate of it.
Wow.
And, you know, that I made at Allegro. There was I did a little session down there. One session, I did 4 songs. And I sang this tune for Gene and Bob, who opened up this company, and they went crazy. They signed me. They were like, bring your parents down here. We, you know, to witness the signature, because I was 17. So they signed me, and then they started manipulating. We want to put you with this group called the Timberlanes, and you know, and they were like, do, 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 do. They were like guys from Oklahoma or something. And you know, there was rock and roll had just hit the scene. You know, it wasn't like I grew up to this stuff. There was no rock and roll when I grew up. So when they wanted to put me with this group, I said, listen, let me go back to my neighborhood. I know some guys that, you know, I know Carlo from the Pool Room, and I know Freddie from Mapes Avenue, who sings with the jukebox all day, and Angelo, he's up on Belmont Avenue. He's up at you know, this candy store and he's always, you know, he's got an operatic voice. I could put some guys together. So I recruit these 3 guys. I tell them to come over to my house. We put together I Wonder Why. Stephan, I got to tell you, it was like a magic moment. It was a golden defining moment in my life, because we just started putting, you know, we didn't have any examples, or not too many. And we were listening to some of the doo-wop guys like the Cadillacs and everything. So we started making sounds and doing stuff, you know. So, you know, we started it out like we thought we were starting out like a horn section, you know, dan 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 dan, you know. And then the bass, Carlo, who started singing bass, Angelo started singing tenor, I'm singing the lead, Freddie's doing some fill-ins, like we were doing 4 different things. I felt like I was on a carousel in heaven. I was like 16 at the time, 17. And man, I said, this thing is nuts. This is great. So we went down and recorded. It became a big hit, especially in the Bronx. It was like off the charts.
Oh man, the minute you hear that intro, and you just doing it right now, it is so epic and huge, and it just sets the tone of New York itself. It's the theme of, to me, and just that era of the sounds of New York. It's the beginning of rock and roll for me. That is definitely it. Never gets old. I mean, as you said, it was this magical moment. It's like a religious experience, a rock and roll religious experience. I take it for me.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was cool.
So that was, because before that, so you did that. And correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a song called "The Chosen Few" or something with the other band before, right? You recorded.
I was on. Yeah, I did. They had an existing track. So I sang it with these guys, the Timberlanes. I never met them. They were on this track, and the record label was waning. It was called Mohawk or something. You know, they were going out, and they had a crooner on the record. They took them off. They had me sing on it. Listen, it was out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
my wheelhouse. Now I could explain it like that, but I just did it because I wanted to record. I wanted to hear my voice on tape. I knew I could do something, because as a kid, you're wondering, who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing? What's this all about? And you find out you could do something well, like write a song or sing a song or communicate it. And it's like, it's like the guy who could throw a football from here to Charlie's house, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I could do this. So I wanted to do it. And but it didn't really scratch that itch. I said to these guys, if you want me to sing with a group, let me go get some of my friends. We'll put something together,
Man, did you put something together?
I recruited these guys, and man, I tell you, they were all very talented. Like Carlo Mastrangelo was a jazz drummer. I think he was a savant, because we'd go out on the road, and we were in Chicago. We would go to a club, and maybe Coltrane was singing with Sarah Vaughan. He'd want to play with them. So they said, well, let's see what this white kid could do, because he was confident. And he'd get up there and kill these people. He was a great drummer. He never practiced. And they would say, how do you do that? He said, I could hear the arrangement coming at me. I could hear it before it happens.
That's incredible.
So he was like that, He was a very rhythmic guy. Angelo DeLeo, who was the tenor in that group, could sing like an angel. And Freddie Milano, he could do parts. He would sing parts in falsetto, but low, low falsetto. So it had a different kind of sound. But I never experienced it until the four of us got together. And then, and when we hit with That's My Desire, I thought, oh my God, we were like three punks singing this song, and Angelo DeLeo, who was like an opera singer, just floated above us with this operatic tenor voice. It was fun.
Oh.
For a kid for a kid from the Bronx, like who grew up on Jimmy Roselli and Tony Martin and all these crooners, to fall in love with Jimmy Reid was a very odd thing. I probably was the only one in the Bronx that I knew of that was in love with Hank Williams and Jimmy Reid,
It's true, because it's so like, I don't even know how to say it, part of my language, I'll say everything wrong. So just correct me, because it's more hillbilly-ish than, you're getting, where's this coming from the East Coast? Nobody would even imagine that. You know what I mean? It's more like this.
It gave me some good roots, because
totally.
My father, what he was playing in the house, check this out. He was playing Al Jolson and Louie Prima.
Wow.
Now, Louie Prima would be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if he didn't sing Italian songs. The guy was a rhythm singer. So I didn't have a great voice, like Pavarotti. When I call a great voice, is somebody who could hold notes for like ever and hit beautiful notes. No, I couldn't do this stuff. So I like to hit a note and get off of it. But it's great when I learned I did it instinctively. I didn't do it consciously. But listening to Louie Prima, I just became a rhythm singer. Like that, that. You just keep going. You don't have to sing.
No, but you built that metronome in your head. You made that clock, that rhythm going too. You built the natural.
So it worked with rock and roll. For me, it was like, man, give me a beat. I could sing.
Let me ask you. So here you are playing guitar in the beginning. How did it feel just to go out there and croon and sing with no, because you feel comfortable having a guitar around you. Now here I am. Do you feel a little naked without that instrument?
Well, they kind of actually ripped it out of my hands when I started doing like Dick Clark and some of these shows. They said, lead singers don't play guitar. put the guitar down, you know, while I was with the group. You know, if I wasn't with the group, I probably would have got away with it, but they gave me this. So I just, you know, I was, you know, when you're 17, I was insecure. I just wanted to record and do something. And I knew we had something going. So I just roll with it. But basically, you know, that's who I was. Play guitar, write a song, sing it. You know, I use the guitar as like it's part of my voice. It's a rhythm instrument, you know, because I play good rhythm guitar.
Yeah, yeah, no, good, great. Well, I trust me. I've been watching all the clips. I follow you. It's incredible what you play. The place where you would practice with the Belmonts is it still the location still standing today in the Bronx?
Yeah, it's up for sale. That house is up for sale. It's on 183rd and Prospect Avenue. It doesn't look too good, but it's still standing. Yeah, that room that I lived in, and
It's still there, huh?
yeah.
Do you ever go? Did you ever go back and knock on a door or any? Nah,
There's nobody, you know, it's just locked up. It's vacant.
that's
Uh,
crazy.
but there's so many memories there. You know how it is.
Well, I know. It's just a piece. To me, it's a landmark part of rock and roll. I mean, you one of those cats out there that invented to me rock and roll. Like you said earlier, the stuff wasn't out there. There was nobody to really copy. You really had to make your own. You made your own painting. Van Gogh did Starry Night. You did what you did. You know, it's the truth. That's why I asked about these landmark places of rock and roll, just to be wonderful if somebody would just go, hey, let's take this and keep the history here and make it into a little something, you know? It's just cool.
I think a lot of the sound, Stefan, came like right from the streets.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like Runaround Sue, The Wanderer, you know, when the Belmonts and I, you know, they wanted to stay. The record company wanted us to sing all these smooth, traditional, you know, the American songbook, so to speak. And
Yeah.
we did an album, and I got sick doing it because I felt like I was so frustrated with it because I thought, this is my father's music. I don't want to sing this, you know. So we split up, you know, and I got into just you know, just creating these songs like The Wanderer and Runaround Sue and Ruby Baby, but they all really came from the streets. You know, I was in a gang, you know, the Ford and Baldies. We'd get together at parties and we'd get boxes and bottles and who had conga drums, and everybody be, you know, there was not real talent, but everybody, we'd make, and I'd give them stuff to sing, you know, like, hey, Bundy, hey, Bundy, hey, you know, just make up like a mantra thing, you know, like the beauty of rock and roll is repetition. So you get this mantra thing going. I used to sing on it, you know, I would something, whether it was sing this, but they were like all horn sections. Even The Wanderer, I had everybody singing, like, if you listen to it, it goes da la 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 la. It's like we thought we were a horn section, you know. So I would make up these, you know, because we, like I said, there wasn't, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of examples of
No.
what I wanted to do, you know. So we would make it. I didn't know how to. I wasn't too good with lyrics at the time, so we put together this rhythmic, you know, sound thing, you know, and yeah, it started working.
Yeah, absolutely. It started working. Lyric wise, like who influenced you? Like to put your emotions on a piece of paper and just put your heart out there for the world to see. Who influenced you to do all that? Taught you?
Hank Williams
Hank
and
Williams.
Reid. I mean, you just listen to Jimmy Reid. He when I heard, there's little things like Stephen. I heard this guy Jimmy Rogers. He sang. Now I'm talking about. I'm 15 years old. I'm in the house. I'm at night. I'm tuning in. You know, my little transistor from Wheeling, West Virginia, or something. You know, and I hear Jimmy Reid sing, not Jimmy Reid, I think it was Jimmy Rogers. He sang, "You're the one who really gives me a buzz. I didn't think I could last much longer, but it shows you just how wrong I was." And I went, whoa, he rhymed "was" with "buzz." So I'm run down, jump off the porch, the stoop steps, and I'm like up to the corner and telling the guys, you know what I heard? I heard a guy rhyme "was" with "buzz," and they look at me like I was nuts. Like, what the hell do you want? Yeah, he rhymed "was" with "buzz." Listen to, then I had to get it on the guitar to show them what I was talking about. When you get guys like Jimmy Reid singing, "You better take some insurance out on me, baby, because if you ever say goodbye, I'm going to lay right down and die." I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. This guy's telling this girl to take some insurance out on him, and he's going to die if she listen to what he says. And they're like, "Get out of here, will you? Leave us alone,"
But it's, the way you're saying it, it's all with the phrasing. It's just so epic. And then you have the chords behind it. Dion, it's incredible. That whole world and just that whole New York sound, from the Brill Building world, everything that New York had created. What a moment in history, just in rock and roll history, all of that. So the Bellmonts, now let me ask you, how long did you guys tour? Like, did they know who to put you guys with, Dion and the Bellmonts, to put you out with? You weren't doing full sets back then. You would do like a couple of songs. What was it like to go on the road?
It was a whole lot of fun. The first tour I did was with Bobby Darin for like 6 with the Tony Pastor Orchestra and Joanne Campbell, and I think Jimmy Clanton. And I love Bobby Darin. Man, I love Bobby Darin. He was like, maybe 3 years older than me, and he taught me how to pay taxes on the bus. It's hours and hours between these gigs, so he would say, this is how you pay taxes. So I went down to the pharmacy, got a little pad, a little notepad. I start writing down, bought socks, took a cab. It was a novelty to me.
It's crazy.
So at the end of the year, when I handed this to Mike, by the way, it was 90%, like in Ike, President Ike, Eisenhower, there was 90% taxes. It was great. I'm not kidding. You look it up. You can Google it, but it was nuts. But I handed in this, because you could deduct everything. So I handed in this book, and I paid like much. The Belmonts were making half the money. I was making half the money. They were getting the other half. And they paid more taxes than I paid. And Carlo had to work all summer on the train station to to pay his taxes off. And I thought, wow, there's something to this income tax thing. So I got with it. These are things like I learned as a kid. But Bobby Darin taught me a lot about the business. He just was a wise. He was college. He went to college. I quit high school in sophomore year, so I didn't have too much under me. But listening to guys like this, I started growing, because we all hit the planet. We get on the bus, we don't know anything, and then we start learning.
You get caught on that roller coaster ride, and you get lost too in that world, But that's crazy. Bobby Darin, the School of Darin, the Institute, he's like H&R Block. It's crazy. Who would even think? Because back then, artists were getting ripped off left and right. That's a whole nother story, from the labels and whatnot that you had out there,
Yeah, he taught me about management, a lot of stuff about marketing. Who knew about managing marketing? I just, and I'm still like that, Stefan. I'm like, I'm not too big on all this stuff. I'm aware of it, but I like a good song and really taking people on a trip. I'm not too much into the business thing of it.
Good
But
to
it
know.
was, but it was fun learning, and you know, it helps you not to go down a road where you end up in a, you know, living in a car.
Well, yeah, you don't want to. Oh, Uncle Sam, look, Sammy Davis. You gotta be aware. You gotta have, be aware.
You know, we all get taken. You know, it's you know, like you think you're above it, but there's a lot of people, especially. Listen, I live in. Well, there's a lot of people that they want other people's money. It never made sense to me, but I guess it's a shortcut. They don't have to earn their own. You ever hear the saying, when the man with money meets the man with experience, the man with the experience ends up with the money, and the man with the money ends up with the experience. So, so you got to get on board with that. You want to, it's not that money was ever the, you know, the exhibit A in my life. It was never my driving force, but you write a good song and everything takes care of itself and you can pay the rent.
You could pay the rent. You're absolutely right. The book that you have now, the Audible that people could check out, it's like having a conversation. It's like being in a room, how you said it, and you did it with your friend. His name is Adam. What's Adam's last name? Because I want to give him respect too.
Jablin.
Can you repeat that? What was it?
His name is Adam Jablin.
Okay, Jablin. Okay, so you and Adam, you started this thing. It was taped. Were you guys just having conversations over dinner? How did the whole concept of this
Yeah,
come?
this is crazy. You know, this is crazy. Uh, I met Adam. First of all, I've been clean and sober 56 years. So I put together a whole lot of like gospel songs at the end of the 70s. And I went to St. Joan of Arc down the street. It was like a school and a church and a whole thing, you know. And I played for the kids. And Adam was in the class. He was 12, but a very precocious kid. So years later, years later, I meet him again at about, he's like 30 years old. And we become fast friends. We start going out for lunch. We start going to the meetings together, you know, getting well together, communicating, growing together. And he starts doing this thing where he loves to talk. He's a great orator. I don't know. He could really teach beautifully and speak beautifully. And he talks to the LA Lakers and, you know, and the Dodgers and all these sports teams. And so we have a lot to offer each other. And we'd be at lunch, you know, just throwing things around. And he must have said it maybe 10 times, Steph. And he said, I wish all my friends were here, my family, to hear these conversations. They're so potent. They're so interesting. I said, Adam, let's document them. Let's get them down. Put a voice memo on, or recreate them, or let's write a book called Conversations. So because these conversations were like just all over the place about all kinds of things, about music, like say life, relationships, recovery, faith. So we started documenting this stuff. And after 5 years, we had a book that was remarkable. We're like, people are reading this stuff. They're going, this is a trip. So we, put it together, and Lions Publishing up in Connecticut loved it, and they published it. They made it like a 9 by 11 book. It's pretty substantial book with about 200 photos in it. It's coming out in July, but the Audible's out. And the Audible, we had a ball doing that. You would understand this. The book, the hardcover, has like 200 photos. The Audible has about 50 songs in it, has commentary in it, has induction speeches. Like I'm in, like I call the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I got 3 induction speeches. One, me inducting Dick Clark. I don't think into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think anybody's ever heard that. Little Steven inducting me into the American Music Honors. They had Lou Reid inducting me into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But you have the band, the audience. It's audible, so you could put anything in there. We were really motivated. I think it's the gold standard of audible books. I got very inspired. It's like a work of art.
Oh, absolutely. Not only the rock and roll stuff. There's a chapter in there when I was glossing over it because I don't have the book, obviously, which I am going to order this. But there was a guy where you talk in the book in the later chapters. This is great. He kind of challenges you. He says something to you at the gym, and you come back to him like the next day, and you really get him back because he's talking about heaven or not believing. Where do you go? And then you come back to him the next day because you were saying, I have a meeting. I don't have time to deal with this. I want to do my workout. You had a meeting or something going on.
Oh, you read that. Well, this is what Adam was like talking about. I call it the Four Horsemen of atheism. Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Dan Dennett. When the guys in the gym know I'm a believer. They know I talk about a higher power, power greater than myself. So they're like, you believe in heaven, right? So I said, yeah, I believe in heaven. So you know anybody that died and came back and said there's a heaven? I said, no. I was too busy. I had to do something, and I had to go to the studio that day, so I didn't want to get into it. So I said, no, I don't know anybody. I said, but I know there's a heaven. So he looks at me, he goes, hey, nobody came back, told you and he turns, he walks away. I said, wait, hey, Robbie, come back here. Fair turnaround is in place here. I said, where do you go when you die? He said, nowhere. I go into the ground, nothing. I said, do you know anybody who died and came back and told you there was nothing? He goes, no. I said, you have as much faith as I have, but I think yours is misplaced.
Amazing.
So then he gives me all these books and these, YouTube videos on Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins. And you want to know something? These guys are tremendous. They got great minds. They're very, very prolific. They're imaginative thinkers and writers. But when I read the book, the God that they reject, I reject. They're not talking. They're rejecting a God they think people believe in. They think God. Well, the God that they're rejecting is some kind of supreme being that is within nature, like you could find them in the universe, like he's some kind of supreme being that you could go up in a spaceship and find them and do a scraping and put him on a petri dish. Go, yeah, we got him. He's God. No, that's not God. God's, you know what I'm saying? God's outside of space and time. He created the whole thing. He's not contingent on anything. He's the sheer act of being itself. He's like, I got this from my mentors. I just pass it on. But it's good stuff and it's very scriptural. Like, I think they asked Moses. Moses asked God, who are you? He said, I am who I am. I am that I am, This is the interesting part about that story. I think I never thought of defining God. Like people say, well, I don't believe in him. I don't believe in this, or I don't believe. But what are you rejecting exactly? Define it for me. Who thought of that? I just never thought of asking anybody that. But when I read these books, I saw that these guys, as intelligent as they are, they're rejecting some kind of they think God is like Bigfoot.
Well put.
He's around. We didn't find him, man. Where is he?
Quick, get a picture. That's funny. You're totally right. Dion, let me ask you, you getting sober, I mean, you keep it together. You got back and when you were younger, heroin, all this stuff. And then what contributed to it? Was it, you know, I was reading about it. Was some of it, with the crash of losing your friends and Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, Big Boppa, Frankie Lyman, who was a friend of yours from the area, who passed away such a young age. I mean, when you think about all your friends, the babies, they all died babies. What contributed to you getting sober?
Well, that's an interesting thing now that you're putting it that way. I never thought about it like that, but you want to know, I don't think I ever knew how to process all this, like your feelings, because becomes overwhelming. I didn't know how to process this stuff. These events happen to you, and you have nothing to do with them. They just happen, and your friends that you're singing in the bus with for like 2 weeks, Buddy and Richie and the Big Boppa, and all of a sudden they're gone, disappeared. And you're 19 years old, and there's no grief counseling in the Bronx. And, this stuff puts you in a tailspin. You just don't know how to process this stuff, Although I went to speak to Monsignor Pettinacone, and he did give me some solace, I guess. He said, Dion, relationships never end. He said, in our faith, they never end. They grow as you're growing, as you're here. Be open to God's grace, because your friends are closer to the beatific vision right now, and they're open and they're growing. By the time you see them again, your relationship will have moved forward, So that gave me some kind of comfort and peace. But, I just didn't know how to process that stuff. I started taking drugs at a young age, and then I tell you, February of 1968, Frankie Lyman died. We used to do drugs together, sing together. We're kids, man. We what do we know? We're having a good time. And all of a sudden, gone. And it was like, that scared me. So I cleaned up right, like the next month. I cleaned up, I got on my knees one night. I said, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really know how to do life. Something's wrong. Could you help me? And when I got off my knees, something was changed. I haven't had a drug or a drink since. That was like April 1st, 1968. And I never looked back. I started growing. I started reading. I started trying to help myself learn how to, like just what you mentioned, the idea of processing this stuff, like leaning into it and placing it where it belongs and growing up. I was running from all of it. And it's not a it's not a good idea to do this. It doesn't work, to try and outrun it. You can't outrun it. You always, it catches up with you.
It catches up with you. I was telling you earlier, and I remember when I was playing with Dee Dee. I played with Dee Dee Ramon right when he passed away. I was in his last band. I actually have his last guitar, and it was weird. He wrote a book, and then he's like, I put you in the dedications. I'm like, he goes, you're my only friend. All my friends are gone. But it's almost like he was saying goodbye. It's like they got inducted in the Hall of Fame, the Ramones, and we played Roseland. We did a party. I remember when we came back, he goes, we're going to go to Seattle to play show. Hold my guitar. You never know what's going to happen. And it was weird. I'm like, I don't want to hold your stuff, Dee. Just take it with you. And he goes, you never know. And he was sober, for what some people say to sober, he would smoke his weed, but he ended up buying heroin and died in Hollywood in his flat there. And it was very sad. And I was, no closure. Not Dee Dee Ramone, the musician. He was my friend, and I'm like, what the F just happened? There's no closure, no final goodbye. And I couldn't understand it. And I was like, what the heck just
Yeah,
happened?
it feels like somebody just let go of your hand, like
Yeah.
going, and now that I'm on the other side of it, and I've been on the other side of it for a while, I could tell you it's a privileged way to live. What I found with the community of in recovery, it's totally a privileged way to live. I get to help my wife. I don't have to. I get to help I have 3 daughters. They have children. I have grandchildren. Now I'm a great grandfather.
Congratulations. I saw the post. Yes. Congratulations.
I'm the guy who could get the whole family together and just be at the head, the glue.
Yeah.
And point the way to a higher reality and a way of life that is filled with beauty, truth, and goodness. I don't have to, I don't have to be involved in myself and saying, oh man, I don't have a record deal, or don't I have a record deal, or it's me, me, self, I. Go fuck yourself. It's like, get over yourself. Wake up. There's people around. Life is not about you. And it's beautiful to be people-centered instead of self-centered.
Absolutely. What you just said is so beautiful. I mean, Dion, the career, but the real end of the picture really is being at the head of the table with your family, the people that know you the best, and getting to see that family grow. That's a beautiful thing, with your children, your grandchildren, their children. Come on. It's great.
Stefan, when I was a kid, this is kind of, I think it's a beautiful story. It's, when I was a kid, my father never had a real job, so it caused a lot of problems, but he was like a big kid. And he would put me on his shoulders and take me down to the Museum of Natural History or the Museum of Art, and point out Van Gogh, who was an expressionist, and this Salvatore Dali, who was like a draftsman. He drafts he produces everything. This guy expresses everything. So I like the expressionists. We got these books. I really liked Monet, and as a kid, Cézanne and Modigliani. I loved all these guys. I loved the paint. They resonated with me. So he gets me these big books. We're carrying them home on a train, and I still have them. But when I got home, I started reading the book on Monet. Just opening and looking at the pictures, and has all his paintings. Pictures of his paintings in this big art book. But the first maybe 10 pages are a biography. So, and this is in the book that we just wrote too. This is one of the stories that in the Rock and Roll Philosopher book. But I tell it that, I was looking at Monet, on the corner of the streets of Paris, with a cigarette. He was like 19 with the chain, it had all just a cool dude, he had all, he was just, look at me. The kid is here. You like this chain around my neck? Look at me. So, and then like the next page, he's like 30 years old, and he has a dark beard, and he has a white, smock on, and he's painting, and he's posing for the camera. And then as you turn the pages, he gets older and older. By the time you hit the last page, he's 86 years old, and he's there with his whole family out on the lawn, this whole extended family. And I thought to myself when I was as a kid, I looked at that and said, I want to be that guy. I want to be like that. And here I am. I'm like 85. I feel,
God bless you.
I don't feel it at all. Thank God. But, I think was a little bit of providence in that, God's plan for my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've been through a lot of stories, a lot of tales, and just to be that guy with the family that you saw your life in that book as a kid. It's funny you mentioned the museum and arts, and I would go as a kid with my aunt and take me, and I would get lost. But when I saw a painting of Van Gogh, especially, I'd get lost, and you could see in every stroke, every brush, the pain, what he was going through. I would just get lost in the colors, and that's how I listened to music. The music that you did, and the Stones, and whatever I would listen to would help me growing as a kid because I couldn't talk to anybody. So I would sit in my room with the headphones and stare at these album covers and go, what is this? Or even your album cover, like the hands, who's that person holding Dion? This is crazy. This is like rock and roll, and your imagination would just create something and a story, which we all forgot about. You know what I mean? I might be rambling, but cut me off anytime.
No, you're hitting it right on the head. I'm still like that.
Me too.
I love creating. It's like I'm not, in some sense, on some level, I'm easy to figure out. When I told you when I was a kid, I felt this what happened to me when I listened to a Jimmy Reid record. It went in here and it made a turn. It went up here and then it came up here, and I don't know what it did. It did something to me, and it's hard to explain. But my whole life, I call it enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
They took me to a place of enchantment or transcendence. And my whole life has been to create something like that and take people on a trip and transmit it. That feeling I got when I was 11, I'm still trying to transmit it to other people. That feeling. I want to create something that takes people on a trip. And I do it with everything in my life. Like this guy came to me and he wrote a play that it's called The Wanderer, and it's on track. It probably open on Broadway this next year. But it's the same thing, taking people on a trip, with all this music and a love story and being betrayed and the gangs and the laughs and the history, the street music. I want to take people on a trip, so they leave the theater going, wow, I got to see that again, or I got to hear that. I love doing that.
I mean, seeing your life, The Wanderer, the play, and before when the pandemic happened, but there was releases of the play was out and about, right? The play was shown. It was in different places, correct?
It was like in Paper Mill Theater out in Millburn, New Jersey for about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Jammed the place. I mean, I came out in the intermission one time. I had to meet somebody in the parking lot, and I'm standing in the parking lot, and the valet comes up to me and says, "You got a hit show." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Nobody leaves." He says, "Usually during intermission, a lot of people leave." He said, "Nobody leaves during the show." I thought, that could be a good indicator.
It's a great indicator. You kidding me? It's great. Seeing your life when you were sitting watching that, what goes through your brain and your mind? It's like,
it's weird. It's otherworldly. It's weird. It's something, the first time I saw it, I actually, I teared up a little bit. There's a scene, this kid that was playing me and this girl that was playing my wife. I met my wife when I was 16. She was 15.
Wow.
And we're still together. We've known each other like 68 years. But when I saw this girl, she had moved down from Vermont into the Bronx. Man, I thought, I never seen anything like this. I didn't know they grew anything as beautiful as this up in Vermont. I used to stalk her, I was like a 16-year-old stalker. But on the stage, when this scene kind of transpired, it it evoked the emotions. I don't think a lot of people have a chance to ever feel this again, like the way I did. You know, I think I was really fortunate. Like they do stuff like "Teenager in Love" in the show, and some of the songs, and I get this feeling like, well, I'm 16 again, and I'm meeting her for the first time. Because when I met Susan, I couldn't think of anything else. I couldn't think of anything else, man. I was in junior high school. They were trying to teach me something. My mind was out the window. I was like, when is this going to be over? I'm going to find this girl and look at her and try to get close to her, you know. That's the only thing that was on my mind, you know.
That's it. Wow. I mean, come on. Now the song Runaround Sue, what's the backstory? Is it about her? Is it not about her? Is it like you used her name because you loved the name? And what's the story?
Kind of a little bit of everything, but the real story about it is like, you know, when you're a kid from the Bronx and you're hanging out with a gang, and you're the first one who says to the guys, I like that girl, Susan. And you go over and talk to her. It's like you own her. It's like that means nobody else talks to her. I like her. I'm talking to her. Now I was first, and she belongs to me.
That's right.
Just a kind of a little, it's kind of a street code. It's weird. It's archaic. I don't know what it is. It's like, so, but, you know, I go to the feast and she's talking to somebody. You know, she's talking to some guy, and I said, what are you talking to him for? She said, he asked me for directions to the Bronx Zoo. I said, you know, I thought we were going out. She says, we are. I said, what are you talking to him for? She said, I told you. It's like, you know, it's like, so I wrote this song. I didn't know how to express it. And then I wasn't going to put it out. And she was the one who said, put it out. It's a good song, you know?
Well, so you were not going to put it out.
I wasn't going to put it out.
Crazy. Wow. You didn't think it was that good of a song, or you just didn't want?
No, I didn't. You know, I thought, you know, we got back on track. I put it out because I was like, oh, I'll get back at her for talking to that guy, you know. So I write the song. Hey, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I just wrote a song called New York Minute. If I send it to you, there's an album coming out in January compatible with the book. It's called The Rock and Roll Philosopher. So I wrote one of the songs, and it's called New York Minute. And do you play music on the show?
Well, I could do about I know how to edit it where I don't get copyright strike, but what I do edit clips, what we talk about, like Runaround Sue. I could add a clip, I could play it under our conversation, but I can play it.
Well, I'll send it to you. Maybe you could, no, it doesn't make sense.
Why? Send it to me.
I'll send it to you anyway.
But I'm just happy that this moment came today, and I appreciate your time. And before we get out of here, I know you're busy, and I don't want to keep you, all that. But give me a top 5 must-have albums that matter to you that we could share with the audience. Can you do that?
Well, I got to go with Hank Williams. You know, like his greatest hits, maybe. Because that started me out. You know, and again, I got to go with Jimmy Reid at Carnegie Hall. You know, top. You know, there's a lot of people that it's like top 5 albums. I love. I can't think right now. What could that possibly be? The funny part about it is I have lists in the book of my top 10 albums or something. And I'm trying to think of what I put in the book. It's off the cuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what the magic. It's nice to get you off the cuff and just throw that at you. You're on a desert island. What would you take? These are the only 5 you can bring that you'd want to listen to.
You know, I loved B.B. King when he was younger, you know, in his younger years. There was nothing like it. So I like B.B. King's greatest hits. I got to take them all like that. Uh, I would think, love Al Green.
Oh yeah.
I think Al Green was something else, man. I would take a Marvin Gaye album. So just then I go on with Sam Cooke and
You go on. Okay, but that's your top 5. Great pick. And we'll do greatest hits on those. Well, I'll put up here greatest hits because come on. I'm going to let you get out of here. Dion, this is my man. Love hanging with you. I'll do some clips. We'll edit this. Before we go, did we cover everything? Anything else you want to tell the audience we should check out? Anything?
Merry Christmas.
Oh, man.
Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy, what do we have coming up? Yeah, I don't know. Love you guys. Thank you for listening.
Oh, man. Dion, it was such an honor to have you here today with me. And I'll make some clips. Thank you for your time, my friend. A big yo to you. And, man, it's everything I dreamed of. You're great. You're wonderful to talk to. And you're just a great person, man. Thanks for your time. All righty.
Stay well, Stefan.
All right, you too. Happy holidays to you and your family. God bless you, my friend. We hope you enjoyed the podcast with my conversation with Dion. This is Artist on Record. I am your host, Stefan ADIKA. Post your comments down below. We always love to hear from you, and share this with somebody else that loves the stories of the people that were there in this crazy world of rock and roll. Until then, we'll catch you all later.